So let's discuss this lesson today. The title of today's lesson is lighting, and lighting is one of those things that I talk a lot about and I wonder if you get it. But hopefully, this lesson will help you understand why I talk about light so much. There's a quotation here that says that light is to a filmmaker what paint is for an artist. I don't know who said that, but whoever said that was a very smart person. What does it mean to you when we say something like this? Well, yes, light is very important. What else? Think in a painter. I'm sorry? Exactly. I mean, can you have a painting without paint? So, paint is all important when you're painting. Light is all important when you're filming. So, paint is the material, the prime material with which an artist will paint. Light is the prime material with which a filmmaker will film and create cinematic works of art. We spoke about light and about the importance of light last semester. One of the things that I asked you last semester was I don't know if you recall a lesson where I asked you, you were seeing me. Remember when I asked you that question last semester? And the answer was, what? Were you seeing me? Um, yeah, but those colors are part of what? Are made up of what? Light. So we see light. Your eyes see light. That's the importance of lighting. Without light, you cannot see. Without light, there could be no movie. Same thing that you could not be able to do anything with a hose if you didn't have water, and you could not do anything if your stove didn't have fire. You can't do anything if your camera doesn't have light. It's the most important element that your camera records. And good lighting can make your movie look incredible. Bad lighting can make your movie look like real cheap. Sometimes the big difference between a movie that looks like cinematic, like it's very well done, and one that does not look that way is the way that it is lit. You know that cinema has many moving parts. Cinematography is composed of many disparate elements that come together to make a movie. But uh, that mean all those elements coming together mean nothing if you don't have good lighting. And we're going to be talking about light and lighting today. Light is what we see. Lighting is what you do with that light. And filmmaking is all about capturing light. You'll notice that the thing that is the brightest is the thing that is going to call mostly the attention. And we use light to guide the attention of the viewer in a movie. You have basically two types of light. You have natural light. Natural light is the light that comes from the sun or the moon or any other natural source. But there's also artificial light, right? Like the one that you see from lamps, the one that you see from flashlights. But whether your light is natural or whether your light is artificial, the way that a scene is lit is going to influence the way that you react emotionally to a movie because lighting affects you on an emotional level. Now, natural light and artificial light both have their advantages and their disadvantages. Let's look at the picture on the top. Can you describe what you see in the top picture? Someone? Anybody? Do you see the guy holding something in his hands on a pole? No, but no, we're talking about light, so that's not an umbrella. Um, right now, that is acting as a shade, but I'm going to talk about that in a second. Let's talk about natural light. Okay, what are the advantages of natural light? It's free. You don't have to pay for it. It's all around you. and you can control it, it's a little bit harder to control. You need something like what that guy is holding that can be called a reflector or a diffuser depending on how you're using it. If you're using it to bounce light, it's called a reflector. What do you mean bounce light? Well, I don't know if you have ever taken a picture of someone, even under a lot of sunlight, and sometimes there's a shadow in their face. Have you ever seen that? Well, how do you get rid of that shadow? You take that reflector, you make the light bounce off it into the face of the person. That white color reflects light. If you see that canvas is white, and it's a very good reflector of light. But you can also use it as a diffuser. Maybe there's too much light, maybe it's too bright. So you put it on top of him, it diffuses the light a little bit and it makes it better. And with better, I mean better exposure. Because at the end of the day, we're using light to see well, to look at what was recorded well with all its details. We don't want a shot to be too dark because then it will be underexposed, or we don't want it to be light because then it will be overexposed. Remember when we spoke about that a while ago? Underexposed and overexposed. And the problem is always the same. The problem is that we're going to miss details. We cannot see the image well enough. So we can use natural light, but a good way of controlling that light is using reflectors and diffusers. One of the problems about natural light also is that it's very unpredictable. Let's say that you want to shoot a scene in a beach where you're having a party. It's supposed to be a sunny day, but when you're there, the sky is cloudy and it's overcast. You see, you cannot control nature. So that will be a problem. So that's one of the problems of natural light. Now, artificial light also has its advantages and its disadvantages. Can you see the picture in the bottom? And you can see the face of that little alien boy there, and you can see that it's very well lit from a side. And we can do that with artificial lighting. Artificial lighting is the one that comes from lamps, it's the one that comes from lighting equipment, it's the one that comes from flashlights. And this type of light is easier to manipulate than natural light, and it's more controllable. You control it. The problem is that you have to pay for it because you cannot have light without electricity, and somebody has to pay for the electricity, right? So those basically will be the advantages and disadvantages. But we have both available, and both should be used. Both should be mastered. Now, something else that we have to consider when we're looking at light is the angle and the direction of the light, because the direction and the angle of the light will give you a clue of what part of the day the scene is taking place in. Um, think, guys, in the light that you see in the morning. Think about that. Now, think in the light that you see in the afternoon. Are they the same? Yeah, they're very similar. But Mr. Torres said that he thinks that there's a difference between one and the other. Mr. Torres, could you tell us what difference do you see? Well, I mostly agree with you, sir. I would say that it does look different. I mean, you can look outside and you can know if it's afternoon or it's morning, primarily because of the direction of the light. Because as you know, the sun is not in the same position in the sky at different moments of the day. So that makes the light a little bit, also the color is slightly different. I believe it's my impression that during the afternoon it's slightly more yellowish, and in the morning it's a little bit more white. So by looking at the light in the movie, you can pretty much guess if it's morning or afternoon. But that is something that we have to be careful of, right? When we're shooting a movie, because sometimes we shoot movies out of chronological order, and we don't want people to get confused when they're watching our movie. So all of these things need to be paid attention to. But it's important that you understand that lighting is a very high priority in filmmaking because of the way that it influences the viewer. I mean, it can add production value to a movie, or it can make the most beautiful set with the most talented actors look cheap and bad. So a badly lit image takes away from a movie. A well lit image adds a lot of value to a movie. So these are things that we need to work at when we're shooting our movie. Now, documentaries are a slightly different story. How many of you watch documentaries? You've never seen one in your life, but you don't enjoy them. That's the thing. Okay, maybe you have not seen the right one, because there are many. It's like movies. I love movies. I don't like every movie. On the other hand, I like documentaries. I don't like every documentary. So you probably have not come across a good documentary. I would like to recommend one to all of you, because I know that fun is a very important thing for you guys. So this one is a lot of fun. Has anybody here seen a documentary called Super Size Me? I I recommend you guys check it out. You're gonna like it very much. How many of you enjoy eating at McDonald's? Well, tell you what, after you see that documentary, I'm not sure if you're gonna enjoy it that much. It's a fantastic documentary where this guy decides to go on a McDonald's diet for a month. What does that mean? The McDonald's diet, that he's going to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day for straight 30 days in McDonald's. And it's incredible, ridiculous amount of fun. You're going to enjoy it very much. I'm just going to give you a little hint. The guy almost died. And I'm talking a healthy guy, a young, healthy guy. So if you have a chance, it's probably in YouTube. You can check out. It's titled "Super Size Me." You know that when you buying at McDonald's, the cashier asks you if you want to supersize. You want more French fries and you want a bigger soda, whatever. That's what the title refers to with "Super Size Me." So check it out. But going back to documentary films, in documentary films, when we're shooting a documentary, lighting is not as much a priority as when you're recording a movie. Um, I'm not saying that you don't pay attention to lighting, but what I'm saying is that lighting is a little bit less important, because when you're shooting a film, films are like a heightened reality, and there are artistic and aesthetic considerations that you need to have. You want your movie to look beautiful, because at the end of the day, as we said at the very beginning of this course, film's first mission is to give you visual pleasure, right? Remember that. Visual pleasure. What's visual pleasure? When you're staring at something, why are you staring at it? Exactly. Exactly, sir. That is correct. When you stare at something, it's because you like it. If you go to a museum and you stay in front of a painting for a long time and you're staring at it, it's not because someone told you you have to look at it. No, because I like it. It's pretty. I'm enjoying it. So that's the main goal of cinematography. What we do, what we shoot, the first thing that it has to be is aesthetically and visually pleasant. But the thing about documentaries is that they have to stress reality. So they have kind of like a different look. They don't have the same polished look that a film has. I'm not saying that you don't light it correctly, but in a documentary, it's not as important because documentaries look like the news, right? They don't look like a movie because you have to create a sense of realism. Now, let's talk a little bit about lighting basics. We spoke about the properties and importance of light, but we're going to talk about what we're supposed to do with light. Why? Because in addition to providing a viewing experience that is pleasant, in order to make sure that we have correct exposure, because at the end of the day, when we see something, we want to see it well, right? We don't want it to be too dark or too light. We want to see it in a way that we can see all its details. But in addition to that, light provides also specific moods, emotions, and atmosphere to the overall film viewing experience. That means that lighting can make you feel different ways. Let me ask you a question. How many of you have been to a hospital during the night? Okay, let me ask you a question. Is the lighting that you see at a hospital at night the same type of lighting that you see in your house? That's one of the things that make, there are other things that make it different, madam. But yes, that's very observant from you. Yes, they are different, but they're more different than you think. Now, but think of the way they make you feel. Think about that for a moment. Think in the lighting in your house at night. Think in the way that light makes you feel. And think in the way that the lighting in a hospital makes you feel. It's very different. Use the word brighter. I'm going to use a stronger word, harsher. What color is the light that you see in a hospital? White. What color is the light that you see in a house? Like yellow, yellowish, right? It's yellowish. So those colors make you feel differently, madam. That white, harsh light um, is, I mean, it puts your nerves on edge. Well, I don't know if you've ever been hospitalized, but it's very hard to sleep in a hospital. And part of that has to do with the lighting. But when you're home, you feel like more relaxed because that yellow lighting, exactly, it's a yellow color, madam. The yellowish color makes you feel more relaxed. Now, there are reasons for proper lighting. Let's look at four of those reasons. Number one, we need to have correct film exposure. That's the primary reason why lighting is needed in a film because we need to see well what's being recorded. When the image is either overexposed or underexposed, that's problematic. The second reason is that lighting provides a mood, a certain emotion. When you watch a film, we already said that depending on the way it is lit, it will make you feel a certain type of emotions. Think, for example, in the way that a romantic movie is lit, or think in the way that a horror movie is lit. Are they lit the same way? No, they have to be lit differently because they are different genres and they're supposed to convey different emotions. Another reason for proper lighting is for that of scene enhancement. Sometimes the type of, if it's natural light, for example, that we're using, sometimes natural light is not enough. We have to use a diffuser to get a better image, or we need to use a reflector because we don't want dull, flat, boring looking images. We want them to look as nice as possible. So sometimes we need to like manipulate the light and enhance it. And finally, we need to properly light a scene or a shot because of scene continuity. As I said earlier, remember that scenes are usually not shot in chronological order. So if you're shooting, let's say, a movie in your house and people are sitting in the living room in the morning and the light is coming through the windows, but now you have to shoot a scene that takes place in the same moment, but it's afternoon now. What are you going to do? Because now the light is going to be coming from a different direction. If you don't put some lamps outside of the window so they can come in the same way they were in the morning, it's going to look weird because it's not going to look like it's the same time and moment. Do you understand what I'm saying? And you can be creating a blooper. So working with light is very important. There are two types of light. We have hard light, like the one that you're seeing here. This is a type of light that has shadows with no transitional edge or gradient. If you look at the first picture, you see this picture here. There's a child, and you'll notice that the light is not gradually moving here or the shadow, that there's a very sharp delimitation. Do you see it? Here's light, and here's the shadow. Has a very strong light. This is what we call hard light. You can also see it in this picture. You can see how sharp the shadows are in the actor's face, in his shoulders, in some of the creases in his suit. And you can even see it better here. You can see this parking lot, and you can see how how harsh the light is and how it makes for very strong shadows. Would you use this type of lighting in a children's movie? Why not? I'm sorry, say that again. It's not. It's not. What emotion? How do you feel when you see hard light? Look at those three images. Does it make you feel like safe? Okay, that's a big word. Yes, sir. It does look ominous. So you would use this type of lighting in a dangerous scene, a very serious and solemn scene. Not some. It's not relaxing at all. Now look at this other type of light. This is soft light, and as you can see here, when we talk about soft light, we're referring to light that wraps around the objects, and there's a gradient between the light and shadows. I'm not saying that there are no shadows here, but it's hard. It's harder to say where the light begins and where the shadow ends. It's softer, and if you see here, this is a romantic movie that you're going to be seeing very soon, titled "I'm Here." And it creates like a dreamlike quality, and you feel like safer, like secure. Is soft light is very much more relaxing, and you don't feel danger even though you see shadow here. It is still kind of, the lighting is kind of scattered. The shadows have a gradient that are softer and smoother. Can you see the difference? Hard light, soft light, it's very, very evident. So depending on what type of movie you're shooting, what your genre is, you have to select what type of light do you want. Or maybe you could have both types of light in the movie. Maybe you need a specific scene in the movie to be shot in a particular kind of light. You can do that also. What you should not have is some kind of crazy combination where you're not paying attention to the type of light that you're shooting. Okay, this will be coming in the test, but more than coming in the test, this is something I would like for you to learn and use. This is very practical, and I and my students use this technique. This is probably the most basic and standard lighting technique in both photography and cinematography. This is what we call the 3 point lighting technique. This is a very standard method of lighting a film. Let me show to you how it works. Can you see this pentagon? It says subject. Okay, let's make believe that this is the front of the face. Let's say that's you. And we're going to record you. We're going to shoot you. You're looking down. You're looking in this direction, right? This is the back of your head. Notice that there are three lights positioned around the subject. In front of the subject, not directly in front, it's a little bit oblique. We have something called the key light. What would the function of the key light be? Well, key light is another name for the main light. This is usually the strongest light that we have. This is the one that's going to be the most powerful light showing the individual. However, since it's such a strong light and it's going in this direction, what's going to happen at this side of the face? Shadow, because when you throw light on something, you have shadow at the other side. So let's say that you have shadow there and you don't want that shadow. You want to get rid of it. You want the light to be on that side of the face to be lit, but you want it to be not as lit as this one to make it look more dramatic. So you use this light that is called the fill light. It's going to fill the shadow with light. This light is usually softer. You use it to get a little bit, get rid of a little bit of the shadow so we can get proper exposure and have a more interesting shot. You're going to see an example of this later. And finally, you see back here what we have. This is called the backlight, and it has another name. It can also be called the rim light, and some people call it the kicker. Why kicker? Well, where do you kick people? Behind, exactly, in the behind, right? So that's why it's called the kicker. What is this light going to do? You shine a little bit of light in the back of the person, and what that's going to do is the effect that's going to have is it's going to separate the subject from the background. It's going to add dimensionality because sometimes you take a picture of a person, but they get kind of like lost in a busy background, and you want them to like pop out because they're the subject, right? Let me show you an example. Okay, look at the example here. This is from a French movie called Amélie, and that's Amélie. Look at her face. Where's the strongest light coming from? From her left side or her right side? Her left side. And notice that there's a little bit of what at this side? A little bit, but not too much. It is this soft light or hard light? It's on the softer side. Let me show you. And she is clearly popping out from the background. You cannot confuse her with the background. Look at how the light is working here. Here we have the key light is shining here. Fill light is getting rid of a little bit of shadow, and then we have the backlight to separate her from the background. This shot is very beautiful, and it's very well lit and exposed. When you shoot something, it should look like that most of the time, unless you need something different. But usually, what you need is this. And there's a video here I would like for you to, well, not I like, you have to see it because it's part of the class. There's a video here that you need to check out. So you're going to click on it and see it, okay? Any question about the three-point lighting technique? Is it clear? It's pretty simple, right? You can use this. Yeah, it is. And you can use flashlights, you can use lamps in your house, and you can practice this. It will be fantastic if you guys could take a photo and practice this in your house. Because remember, all this stuff is practical, guys. Right now, because we're not in the classroom, it all sounds like probably boring to you. But when you're actually doing it and implementing it, it can be very exciting. And hopefully that will happen, right? Okay, and finally, when you lighting is something that's very genre specific. If you make a comedy, what's your main mission? If I light the scenes in a way that is scary, are you going to laugh? No. What if I'm shooting a horror movie? What's the main reason or purpose behind a horror movie? It's scary. If it's not scaring you, it's failing. It failed because that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to scare you. Now, if I start using like soft lights and things like that, is it going to be scary? Most likely not. Most likely not. So you have to light your scenes depending on what kind of movie you're shooting, what kind of genre you're making. For instance, a horror movie has to use light to make the scene look sinister or eerie. If you're making a something for children like the Teletubbies, it has to be very colorful and eye-catching because that's how children attention works. You have to like call their attention with colors and all that. And if you're making a romantic movie, then the way to go will be with a softer light. Let me show you an example. You have two very good examples here that I would like for you to observe. Look at the difference between what an epic romance looks like and what a horror film looks like. Um, what movie is this? Does anybody know what film this is? I'm sorry? That's Titanic. How many of you saw Titanic? It's a very good movie, sir. Even if you don't like romances, you'll like this one. Give it a chance. Uh, Titanic is what we call an epic romance. And look at the scene. How does it make you feel? Scared. I'm sorry, how does it make you feel? Yeah, it makes you feel like, like safe. The soft lighting makes it look like a dream. I mean, when you're kissing your significant other, you feel like you're on a cloud, right? So you can get all that from this shot. This shot makes you feel or understand what they're feeling. On the other hand, look at the picture on the top. That's from a horror film titled The Conjuring. Has anybody seen The Conjuring? It's a franchise, right? You have franchise like Annabelle and La Llorona. They all come from The Conjuring. It's a very scary movie, very well made. They're very well made. I like them very much. And this is one of the scenes, very scary part of the movie. And how does it look at the way it's shot? What kind of lighting do you see here? Yeah, and I agree with you. And if you saw this movie and you remember the scene, the scene is super scary. I mean, the performances and the soundtrack and the music, all those things work together, to make it scary. But if you did not have the proper lighting, that was going to not be as scary as it ends up being. It's a combination of elements that makes it scary. And the lighting is one of those. So that's why lighting is very important. Soft light here and hard light there. Yeah. Okay. So, guys, do you have any questions? All right, then that will be all for today. Here's the reshoot activity that has to be uploaded in the next 48 hours.